One of you kind and generous viewers was nice enough to share a link to this Egyptian version of Jane Eyre. Thank you very much, because on my own I probably would never have found it, especially because the information that is out there about it seems to be a little bit confusing. The actual translation of the title for this version is The Man I Love. Now, I really enjoy watching these foreign versions because I've never seen them before, often never even heard of them, and that's really refreshing because most of the English language adaptations that I have reviewed, I had already seen at least once. I don't want to say that I get bored, but, well, with these foreign versions, although I completely miss out on all the dialogue, which is very disappointing, I do get to experience the story and basically focus on modes of storytelling, cinematography, casting, cultural changes, things like that. And that is really different. It kind of makes me switch from bibliophile hat, oh well this version is not as good because it's not as faithful to the book, to cinephile hat. Oh well, I don't know if it's faithful or not, and so I'm just gonna view it for its cinematic value. Now, as far as I could tell, this version was pretty faithful. It's modernized as up to 1964, which I think is the year that this came out. But as far as characters go, they seem to have stuck pretty close. The whole opening credits sequence is featured with the backdrop of the Jane character's childhood at the school, and there is a kind of mean teacher, and then there's the nice teacher, who is our Miss Temple character, and there's the Helen character, who is nice to her and then is sick and dies. And I really liked the transition from youth to adulthood, where it showed young Jane character looking out through the bars to the gate that leads outside, and then it kind of does this thing, and then it shows the adult Jane. In just a couple of seconds, a couple of frames, it showed basically what her character is like as an adult. She yearns to go outside, she yearns for freedom, and she passes a child in the hall who is undergoing the same punishment and alienation that she went through, and she wants to touch the child and comfort her, but she is in the position of teacher and she has responsibilities to go to this meeting wherever, and so she has to do that. And I think that was really good visual storytelling. This Jane is very pretty and sweet, and for some reason she reminded me of Glynis Johns. That probably doesn't make any sense at all. When the Rochester character first came into the picture, he seemed pretty reasonable and he had a commanding presence, but he didn't seem terribly cranky. But then later when he's at the house, probably because the first thing he does when he's there is he goes and visits his wife, his mood is completely negative, and much more what you expect. But there was this one really funny thing. I don't know if they intended this to happen, if it was an accident and they just rolled with it, but when Rochester is mounting his horse, Jane kind of is holding the stirrup or giving him a leg up or something, and he accidentally bops her on the head with his foot, and it was so funny and unexpected. It was one of the funniest things I've seen in a Jane Eyre in such a long time. I really hope it was an accident though, because why would you write that into your script? The actor, he's a little more on the portly side, but he's not bad looking, and that was another funny thing. He's just standing there and smoking, and she watches him. She was definitely examining him, but I was surprised just how closely it did follow the story, and the horse scene, and then first conversation, second conversation, he talks about Adele's mother, and the fire scene. It was a really exciting fire, and I was pretty sure it was still going when he was saying his goodnights because of the amount of smoke and the crackling, and I was just like, whoa guys, before you start getting all moony here, like, just check to make sure the fire is out, okay? Another visual thing that I liked was after that scene, Jane goes back to her room and she just stands by the door and she's kind of playing with the candle, and I don't know if it was supposed to be a symbolic thing about a flame being lit and sustaining wind, sustaining opposition, I don't know, you could run with that. Like the Indian version, it does have one musical sequence because it turns out Rochester character doesn't just invite people to his party for like a week or two. No, it's a New Year's Eve party, and so there's all kinds of frolicking and festivities, and Blanche sings, and everybody knows the chorus to the song. It kind of reminded me of Enchanted, like, you all know this song too? It being a New Year's party, though, really made Rochester seem like a jerk, because midnight comes, and he kisses Blanche, and then he kind of looks up to see if Jane is watching, which she was. And you're just like, you didn't have to go that far. Another minor change was that the Mason thing, Jane goes investigating herself when she hears the screaming, and she goes in there and she finds the Rochester character tending to Mason's wounds, and he's like, what are you doing here? And he shushes her out. That was the alternative to having her instinctively know that Rochester was going to come to her for help, and him trusting her to watch Mason, and I didn't really favor that change. But at a certain point, I had a little heads up on this one from the Jane Eyre Files group on Facebook. Someone said that one of the differences about this version is that the Bertha character is actually Jane's sister. Now, I never would have gotten that at all. When Rochester brings everyone to see his wife, there seems to be something that passes between Jane and Bertha, and Jane tries to communicate with her, and for a second, Bertha responds, and then it's gone. Jane is very upset, so I don't know if it's upsetness about her sister or about the wedding not happening, but she leaves, and we get this really nice shot that I like of her standing and looking quite forlornly at the house, and then her feet slowly walking backward, and then she starts running away. They had St. John, though, and I'd say he was in there for a good 20 minutes. For some reason, he shows up when, after Jane and Rochester are reunited, St. John comes walking along. I'm like, what are you doing? Did you follow her? So I don't know what that was all about. But anyway, all told, it follows the story pretty closely, except for a few minor deviations and maybe one major one that I just only know about because someone else told me, and so I can't really speak to how it all plays out. There wasn't really anything that bowled me over about the actors' performances, but as far as I could tell, for a 1 hour and 53-minute movie, they stuck to it pretty well, and also making it a visually stimulating, entertaining film with a couple of funny things thrown in there.